Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 0000046 of Live Live here on July 8th, 2026. Really cool guest today. I'm excited to welcome Jordan Hayashi, the founder and CEO of BizZen. You were introduced to me through Michael Anschel, who is a fellow thought leader, I believe. I think you guys met at JLC Live, but you've been working on some really incredible stuff for about a decade or so in the world of AI. And I want to dig into what you've developed here, what you've previously developed and kind of evolved towards this. And then, you're the self-described BS meter when it comes to AI. So I think we're going to dig in a little bit to AI is maybe overhyped in some ways, but there's some really incredible avenues to it and really powerful stuff. But probably 90% of it or so is just a bunch of fluff out there, right? Sound fair?
Sounds very fair, Dave. Thank you for inviting me to the show. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, why don't we kick it off? Why don't you kind of give us a run through of what's going on at BizZen?
Sure, yeah. The name is Business Zen, and we're trying to do just that. We're trying to help businesses be a little bit more peaceful. It's a hectic world out there, especially in the world of construction. And what we're trying to do is give people the time and the space to focus on what they're best at. Because business owners and really anyone in industry got into the industry because they're passionate about the craft or really love the customers. And unfortunately, especially as business owners, there's just so much other stuff that is eating at your time every single day. And very rarely do you actually get to spend time on what I would consider the most important parts of the business, the differentiators, the craft and the customers. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do here is to really take everything else off business owners and even their employees' plates until all that's left is the differentiators of the business. And so we're a pretty wide suite of products here. We do everything from helping with initial intake of customers all the way through to closing the books on those customers. And I would list off the things that we do, but I think eyes would start rolling because it's just nothing that anyone wants to think about. And so we love when our customers just vent to us and we just say, look, tell us what sucks about your everyday and we'll try to take it off your plate.
No, I think that's pretty cool. And just in the evolution, when did you guys launch?
It's been a little bit of a fuzzy launch. We got started about 18 months ago or so. And of just building since then, I would say maybe 6 months ago, we launched our first real product. This one was being able to go on any site, whip out your phone, and then we'll watch through the camera and listen through the mic and really just understand what is happening on the job site.
Okay.
By the time you're done with the walkthrough, we'll have generated a report of everything that was going on. We'll have extracted images of key moments. We'll have summarized the conversation and started building on a scope of work and started looking at your pricing and started to price everything. And so, especially for initial walkthroughs, the goal is to, as you walk off the job site, have a full scope of work of everything discussed, started to benchmark some pricing based on the way that you as a company typically price, and then really just get kickstarted on an estimate. It's something that definitely works better for smaller projects or for services, but for large projects, people are using us for progress walkthroughs, for owner, architect, contractor meetings, for daily logs. Just in construction, everything kind of stems from what happens on site, and we want to ingest all of that. That way, you never have to go pen to paper. You can just say, hey, can you write me a OSHA site-specific safety plan based on the scope of work that we just walked through? And then bam, that's done.
No, that's cool. And I guess that where I was going with that is, I was curious what kind of the foundational piece of the suite is, because that's maybe your starting tool, right? As you thought about, let's take what the amount of data processed by a human on a job site on a daily basis is the heart of the project management. How do we find a way to just absorb all that information and then process that into something like you say, pen to paper? How can we find a way to just absorb all that and then kick out the necessary record, records of that, correspondence of that, et cetera, et cetera? To me, that seems like a really complicated piece, because some of the other front end administrative pieces that you built off from that maybe seem simpler. So you guys really started with a complex problem to solve. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it has also been a lot more complex than we expected when first going into it. And part of the reason why we're in construction first to begin with is because we wanted to find the hardest industry and the industry that is most offline. Part of that is because we can make the biggest difference, but part of it is because we wanted to make sure that we can battle test all of our technology to make sure that it is cross applicable if we ever want to move into other industries. But yeah, the story of our first site visit was like we had a MVP that worked really well in a bright lit office connected to stable Wi-Fi when only one person was talking, and when it was a very seamless transition from us pointing to one fake ding on the wall to the next fake ding on the wall. But then once we were live in production, our very first user goes into a basement and loses internet, and then gets a phone call, and then is interrupted by 4 other people on the job site. And I think we underestimated a little bit the complexity of what actually happens once you get outside of a lab. Fortunately, we had focused really hard on the backup plan, meaning can we make sure that we never lose data no matter what happens? And as long as we capture the data, we can always recover from it. So no data was lost, but it was certainly a scramble the first few weeks of releasing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I'd love to almost like see the recordings of your test lab, just because to your point, like you're on a job site with trades or homeowners or whatever, and you point and you say, over there, we need to move that. Right. And then like, how does AI be like, I know what there is and what that is. If you're pointing to it, right, or looking at it, like there just has to be so many crazy variables. So kudos to you guys for taking that on.
Yeah, it's been helpful. And really the way we think about AI and building a platform in construction is just how everything is interconnected. Our goal as a company is to become the stewards of customer data and of financial data, actually. And so it might be a little bit surprising to you that we started on the job site and video recordings on actual physical sites. But like I said, in construction, everything really stems from what happens physically on site, even the financials. And so our goal is to just go get the most atomic data, the baseline data, so that everything builds on top of it. Because you're never going to build a skyscraper on top of a shaky foundation. You got to really focus, build out the foundation first, so that whatever you build on top is worth the investment, because you don't want to invest a lot of money building something on top of shaky ground.
And that's a timely metaphor there. And that just shows that our show is live because of the New York City skyscraper issue yesterday, where the structure was buckling.
Scary.
It's a good timely reference there. So in the analysis, and I'm just kind of starting on that original foundational block, like in the analysis of the site meeting and trying to extract all that information, is that done through camera and voice, or is it all voice, or is it LiDAR? Is it spatial analysis? Like, what are kind of the foundational sensory systems that are absorbing that information that are available today?
Right now, it's vision, so camera, as well as audio. We may or may not have some other things in the works that start to use other sensors. But for today, it's camera and audio. We have some graceful fallbacks if any of them fail. So if we need to, we can go audio only. If we need to, we can go photo only. And so it works no matter what you give us, but the more data we have, obviously, the better we're going to do. And yeah, I think we are the only company in the world right now that can do unlimited length video and turn that into effectively a chat GPT that knows everything about your job site. And so we just a couple of days ago had someone go through a 3-hour-long site walkthrough, and we were able to compress all of that into an LLM so that that user could ask any questions about what was discussed, pull up any photos about any moment, and turn all of that into a scope of work in minutes, when usually that would have taken hours, if not days.
And is your model also kind of analyzing individual behaviors and patterns of the specific user and starting to predict on that? So does that make sense?
Yes. So right now, the AI has memory. It knows, it has learned about how you like to price things. We start to actually infer a price book or a service book of your business based on what we've seen you work on in the past. And so we use all of that data to predict what you want to do based on what happened on site. And the goal over time is to become real time, so that we can effectively be whispering in your ear while you're on site, which has a lot of implications for the sales cycle. Let's say you're walking in a bathroom and you forget to mention a curbless shower entry, and we can say, hey, usually when you're looking at this type of bathroom, you want to talk about this upsell. We also just want to catch mistakes on the job site. So I'm sure everyone out there has run into the case where you forget to put blocking behind a shower rail, or you forget to punch out the dishwasher hose entry into the incinerator. So common mistakes happen all the time, and often the most experienced people are the ones who it becomes brainless and you forget things. And so what we aim to do is also be your ultimate co-pilot and catch things that go wrong.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So what's the data set that you're using for what is right and what is wrong?
We're kind of building that up as we go.
Yeah.
I would say we have one of the bigger data sets out there. When I first started the company, I was looking for these data sets thinking they must be out there, right? Like there's a data set for everything. And turns out not really in construction. And so we've had to build this data set from the ground up. Now we're at the scale where we have more data than we know what to do with. And so we are at the scale where we're starting to build things internally is making sense. But largely it came from our own, or we were pointing some of my early prototypes. I would prop up my phone pointing at a YouTube video and just play off of that to see how it would work.
Okay. Awesome. Well, and I want to go back in history because that's a little bit of the one piece of it. And then, I want to evolve the conversation and talk about all the administrative tasks, because I think that's a really hugely valuable part of it. But I want to go backwards a little bit and just how you got here, because you said you've started, this is your third startup, right? Over the years, and you were kind of in the early AI space 10 years ago. Can you kind of talk about, and you're in Boston now, right?
I am, yeah.
And so have you just kind of give us a background, your evolution, where you got into the world of computer science, and then how you got to where you are today. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small farming town on the coast of California. My family was well known for growing strawberries. And so I spent my childhood selling fruit at a fruit stand and also helping out in both my parents' small businesses. So basically grew up surrounded by 3 small businesses, ended up moving out here for school. And, it was a big city and there were fewer small businesses, or the small businesses just did not have the same communities around them that they did in a small town. And so my first company was trying to build communities around small businesses and helping business owners build that virtual community on top of their physical storefront. I kind of wish I had gone deeper on that, because COVID would have been a pretty interesting time to be running that company, but instead was convinced to join an early AI lab. This AI lab went on to be the most successful AI lab in history, dethroning DeepMind back in 2018 when we got acquired by S&P Global to build all of their AI things. And post-acquisition started construction. So did my first 2 or 3 big remodels then. And it was just fascinating for me going from a world where people were annoyed by data quality because it was only 99.999%. And then we would go home onto the job site and neither the GC or I knew who owed who money. And so realized there was a problem there. Ended up leaving my very interesting AI position because I was running engineering and product at what was one of the historic AI labs, but I couldn't stop thinking about construction and the data quality issues there, especially on the financial side. And so ended up leaving the AI lab, starting a company to help homeowners pay contractors and find any savings opportunities available out there. For example, if you install solar panels on your roof, everyone knows you're supposed to get some money back from somewhere. No one really knows what that means. And so we built the first consolidated database of all of the savings opportunities out there, and then would capitalize on them anytime we saw people pay for something that was eligible. That ended up saving our average homeowner tens of thousands of dollars a year. But I've always just been very focused on the business side. And so once AI became a little bit more mainstream, realized finally I can start the company I've wanted to start for my entire life. And so that was the birth of BizN. And we've been at it now for a year and a half, just trying to build whatever people need. Because like, I'm sure you know this super well, as a business owner in construction, it's like you get started because you love the problem space, you love the customers, and then you just never get there. You have a growing to-do list.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's I don't know when the last time you checked something off your to-do list was, but for me, it's like my to-do list is append only. I only ever add things to it. I never actually check anything off. And I would love to have some space to actually focus on the to-do list. And our idea is, can we start taking everything off your plate, including taking a first crack at everything on your to-do list? That way, by the time you get home after a long day, you just have to approve all of the work that was done, because we don't want to be sending things to your customers without your approval. But at the same time, it's often not worth your time to draft an email, especially when you're answering the same question you've answered to 20 other people. And so what we want to do is take all of the tedious work and that you just be in control of your company's brand. Like, you are ultimately the one stamping everything up for approval, but we're teeing it up for you.
You know what's really weird, and I've noticed this in my own brain in the past year, is things that I wouldn't necessarily call tedious before. They were just part of, like, say, navigating through folder systems to then get to a file and open that file and wait for it to open and then edit the thing in the Word document and then save it to a PDF and then do it. Like, that didn't used to be tedious because it's just what had to be done. But now, since the world of AI, whenever I do those things, I'm like, there has to be a better way. Like, this just seems dumb to me at this point. And I notice it more and more, and this isn't, in the field of construction, this is in the management of any company, like the number of Google Sheets, we still have our project management software, which, maybe gets us 70% of the way there. And then there's all this other stuff. We have some stuff in Excel. We have Word documents for this, we have other documents for that, and ultimately it all goes into PDF. And it's like, this just seems a little bit crazy, right? But my question on that is, was it really a problem until AI came out and made me feel like it could be easier? Because it really wasn't that big of a deal. It was just, 4 steps that maybe took 10 minutes. So is AI just shifting all of our minds to anything that isn't really providing really rock solid, either major thought progression or big time results?
Yeah,
my head should go to AI.
One of the things that has become blatantly clear to me over the last few years is, just because people have been desensitized by friction doesn't mean the friction is not there. I used to be the type of person where it was a point of pride for me that if anyone asked me, hey, can you tell me where in the code base this function is? I could tell you, yeah, open up this folder, then this folder, and this folder's in this file. Or, hey, where do we find this document? I say, okay, it's in this Google Drive, this folder, this folder, this folder. And now I'm realizing, why was I wasting my valuable brain power on that? I should be focusing on the creative side of things or thinking about what to do next. And so I probably swayed a little bit too far on the other side of the spectrum, where recently I was staring at a file and I could have just typed out 4 words, but instead I used a voice command to trigger a AI to update those 4 words for me. That was a little bit facepalm moment of like, maybe I've gone a little bit too far into delegating everything to AI. But at the same time, I think humans should be focused on what makes them special. Or in other words, specialists should spend as close to 100% of their time as possible focusing on what they specialize in. And as an industry, if we can get to the point where we maximize, hammer time for the carpenters, then we're in a better place than we were before. And so, just talking about that specific problem, we did roll out a solution to that recently, where now our AI can traverse documents. You can throw documents at it and it will go put it in the job folder for you, and it will be able to read it for you. I'm sure you as both an architect and someone running a building company look at plans all the time, and it's always been curious to me how, if you have a question about building plans, there's not a single document you can look at, because really building plans stack on each other, right? There's addendums, there's changes. And if you have a question like, hey, get me the most recent kitchen elevations, or what is the size of the generator? You can't just read one document. You have to read every single document in order to have confidence that that is the most updated thing. And so that is one of the things that is kind of a great use case for AI, where you can ask AI, hey, what is the size of the generator for this residence? And it can read all of the addendums, starting with the most recent one, all the way through to the base plans, and say, okay, because I now have a complete picture, I can confidently answer the question.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And I think about it in before we started doing, LivCo and doing individual remodeling projects. I worked for a larger multifamily developer, and so we would do 700 unit buildings. And so, yes, the original drawing set is issued 18 months before the project starts. And then if we had modifications to those drawings, someone was in charge of making sure that the drawings themselves were updated. You have to swap out sheets. You have to identify every piece of paper drawing set that's out there and make sure that everything's updated. Otherwise, nobody can trust the information. Right. It has to be updated in the servers and all that. And then, yes, you would have a checklist in terms of like, where else do we need to make sure that this information is appropriate? We need to scan through or have a mental picture of every addendum or change order that could be issued. We need to check the buyer changes document to make sure that we have the full picture of the accurate information that's going into here. And in today's construction environment, there are just infinite variables when it comes to selections and all this stuff. And I talk about it when my parents did their first edition or their second edition, because they had 7 kids in a tiny house. And I was probably 6 years old and I'm 46. So 40 years ago, they did this. How many selections did they have in their house? I think it was like 5. Kitchen cabinet color, right? Flooring, what kind of vinyl flooring, what kind of linoleum flooring, and there was like 3 choices. Like the number of choices that you had back then, you didn't have all the lighting layouts. It was literally it was a light in the middle, vinyl flooring, cabinets, what color Formica countertops, like you have 4 choices, and so you think about how simple that used to be. And now, just because of the world and the manufacturing and the availability of different materials, the number of choices are just infinite, and it gets really, really hard to manage that, not only from a client perspective, but from a construction management perspective, which needs to go down to the people that are doing the work, the subcontractors, and then their laborers, and then the nuances that come with how those different systems interact with each other. It's just like mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
So that's a long kind of diatribe on, yes, if AI can help us with that, that would be great.
Totally. It's like sometimes problems are hard, not because they're difficult, but because they're complicated. There's just so many moving parts here, and they all play together where, yeah, five decision points for a house. Now you have more than 5 decision points just for the cabinet door.
Right.
And then depending on what decisions you make on the cabinet door, that implies the decisions that you can make for the rest of the cabinet, which implies the decisions that you can make for what sits on top of them. And it's just, these things are cascading. They're all related, which is why data stacks on itself. Going back to the earlier point we were talking about, where you, in order to build a strong platform, you need the right foundational data to build on top of, which is why we've always stepped back and said, what can we build to guarantee that we have all of the important data? And so on the project management side, and I hesitate to use that word because we don't see ourselves as a project management tool, but when you're on site, like what matters most is the raw data on site. When we get into financial data, what matters most is the actual money movements, which is why we've deeply partnered with a bank. We can move money. We have expense cards. We have deposit accounts. And that, in my mind, is the only way where you can guarantee that you have 100% of data. Because going from 100% of data down to 99% of the data, it's not a 1% difference. It's 100x difference. Imagine, you're trying to do your taxes, but you're just missing one document. It's just a W-2. But suddenly, none of the numbers in any of your tax documents are meaningful because you're missing, one number, but also it happens to be a very important number. And a tax document that only has 99% of the information, and it is tax fraud.
Yeah, and I mean the financial management of residential construction, or any construction for that matter, but residential, just because you have so many little nuances to it, is just really complicated. And I don't know if you're familiar with Judith Miller at all, but similar to you getting into AI as it relates to construction and remodeling, you wanted to find the hardest place, so fragmented. And so I don't want to necessarily say antiquated, but yes, right, in the way that we operate, because the actual tools and stuff that we do is antiquated, right? And so trying to solve it there, Judith in the financial world, she said, I love doing construction and remodeling financials because there's nothing harder. It's just so strange. And we try and figure out like all the categories and subcategories to our financial systems for, you have carpentry labor, and then you have carpentry materials that spread across different stuff. And you have rough carpentry, and then you have finished carpentry, cabinet install is part of this, and all these different things. And just nothing's really linear. And then you have your CSI divisions, which is a way of organizing it, but the way that work actually happens is completely different to that. And then all of this goes into QuickBooks.
Yes.
And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's fascinating to me how many business owners use QuickBooks. It's 97%, versus how many users open QuickBooks, which is far lower than that, because it's one of these things where you just have to do it because kind of it's the law.
Right.
And so that's one of the problems that we're also trying to solve, is this idea of, can we manage the cost codes for your business? Understand that anytime you spend money, it's either for a job or it's for the company. And can we categorize all of it on the way in? And so we have our own expense card. Anytime someone spends $1, we immediately send the cardholder a push notification saying, hey, snap a photo of the receipt. We know it's in front of you, and we know in 10 seconds it's going to be gone forever. Also, let us know what job it is. Maybe we can infer it based on your schedule or what we know you're up to. But if not, we'll just ask for confirmation. And then we will run AI over it, understand what did you spend money on? Does it cleanly fall into one cost category, or is it split across 3 or 4 different cost codes? And can we do all this auto tagging for you on the way in, so that closing your books or understanding your financials isn't a big calculation that you're going to need to do. It's all live for you, and you can just ask questions at any moment. So we've built what we like to call the AI CFO, where it has insight into all of your finances, and you can just ask questions of, hey, what was my margin on this project? Or did we hold enough retainer that, we don't need to worry about certain things? Or what are the projections here? Where did we go over budget? Where are we consistently going over or under budget? There's just a lot of questions that you can suddenly answer if you have full financial picture.
Absolutely. And my MO, I don't know why I do this, but ever since I got out of architecture school and started using, different software like Revit, and then working in QuickBooks and even Excel, all these things, I always wanted to do something that for some reason it doesn't want to do. Like, I don't know what, like somehow I push it and they're like, no, that's not how it works. And my example is like, there's certain reports that I want out of QuickBooks. It's like, no, it doesn't do that. So what you're saying is like the data's there and you're kind of beholden to QuickBooks of like, I need this report in order to determine this thing. And then it won't generate that exact report. So then I need to find another way to have a report and then another report and bring that information together, really just to give me the answer. Where if this whole thing is in a world of an intelligent brain, an AI brain, right? Whatever you want to call it, is essentially like having a CFO level is like, hey, I need to know what my conversion rate is on projects, that are under $200,000 at this. And it's like, boop, 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 here it is. And here's how I got there. Right?
Yep, exactly.
Boom. All right. We just solved my problems. And then I guess, so I love that whole thing because I seem to want information that isn't easy to get often. So I'm just kind of curious in the suite of kind of product or tools that you guys offer, what would you kind of consider your top 5 that your customers or clients, do you call them users?
We call them customers, users. We like to say customers because it means that there is some financial incentive there for us to do a good job.
I like that too. And I don't know where I heard it, and maybe it was in Silicon Valley or something, but there's only 2 industries that call their customers users. And that's the technology industry and then drug dealers. So that was a trick question on the customers. Yeah. So what would you kind of consider your top 5 or so that people are really loving?
Yeah, I would say, and they kind of chain off of each other. Number 1 is definitely this job site intelligence. We call it our co-pilot. Number 2 is this feature of chat with a site visit where, because we are able to basically hand off all of this information to an AI model, we give you a ChatGPT-like experience in our product where you can just chat with a site visit or bring up information from any prior site visit. And what's interesting is we can do that over voice. You can just ask us a question via voice and we'll respond. The next one is probably using that same exact data to start to write scopes of work or custom documents. So we have the ability to put together quotes. We have the ability to put together scopes of work. We even have an e-sign process where you can send off a document from our platform, go get it e-signed from the customer, and it is a contractual signature. The interesting thing we do there is because we can manage all these documents, we can help you assemble not just a single scope of work document, but really a full-on proposal with marketing materials and testimonials and a little bit about you and your business and what it looks like to work with your business, in addition to reports with photos of that person's house with a scope of work talking about next to this photo of the kitchen, here's what we're going to do in the kitchen, all in line with the scope of work, and then eventually pricing and contracts and everything like that. So we can really prepare a full envelope of a proposal for you, all within, 3 seconds after walking off a job. Then our invoicing is the next big one, because we understand what the scope of work was. We can start to invoice for it. We're watching what's happening on the job site, and so we can go bill for it. One of the R&D projects we have is, can we automatically infer what should have been a change order, where it's like, okay, you sign a contract with this scope of work. we just saw on site you are exceeding that scope of work, and ultimately it's your decision whether or not you want to bring up the conversation around like, hey, this is a change order, we're going to bill for it, but at least we can help you catch it.
Yeah, and you can put as no charge too, right?
Exactly.
But at least
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you were able to easily identify and not even have to go through the work of all the variations or unforeseens or all the stuff that we took care of, that we didn't know was we were going to have to take care of for you guys. Like there's a list of that doesn't hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Make our businesses better and help our customers, our clients understand like, oh wow, they are really doing it. That would be really cool.
Yeah, so that one's highly anticipated. And then, of course, if we are billing for you and we're helping you manage all of your expenses, then we can build you a full financial picture. And so this AI CFO and all of this accounting, we have the ability to effectively automate a full cost plus process where we see all of the costs, we help you cost code all of it, we understand which cost codes have builder fee, which ones don't. And so we can put together all of the reports you need to generate cost plus billing. So we've turned what for some of our customers was a week-long process into 20, 30 minutes in a button click.
Yeah, I mean, administratively, cost plus is just annoying. So
Right.
That's a great point. And I think a lot of clients like that model, but it's like, we don't have time for that. So I think
It's
that's
safe,
pretty
right?
cool. Right.
It's the only way to guarantee that you come out ahead.
Kind of, except it might be way more expensive than you ever thought.
Right. Yeah. Assuming that, the admin time does not eat up all of the margin.
Well, and somewhat parallel to kind of the suite tools that you guys have. What about integrations? What are you integrating kind of all over the place with different platforms, or are you guys kind of in your own ecosystem?
We are trying to build our own ecosystem. We do have some integrations. We are a AI destination, and so companies that have AI integrations like JobTread and HubSpot and others do integrate into our platform, and so our AI can go read from JobTread, it can go read from HubSpot, it can read from anything with an AI integration. QuickBooks is the other one that, since 97% of people use it, we kind of have to. And we're just trying to figure out what our priorities are in terms of whether we want to pursue deep integrations with existing partners and whether existing partners would be up for it. Because really everyone is kind of scared of AI companies, and because we can move so fast, people don't want to integrate with us if we turn around and try to just build out their product suite as well. So it's a balance, and we're trying to figure out what the best balance is.
Well, on the AI, and just going back to the original kind of introduction. So because things are moving so fast and there's so much stuff out there, you mentioned, BS meter in the world of AI hype. So what are you kind of seeing is going on out there that we should be wary of in AI hype? Or is it content? Is it services? Like, is it just everyone saying AI? Should LivCo now be like the AI remodeler?
Yeah, I'm sure if you want to go raise money in Silicon Valley, saying that's going to definitely pump up your value as a company. But
all right.
More seriously, I think it all goes back to the end data. There's a lot of clickbaity articles out there that are all reporting about other reports that report about a different report that report about a different report that stemmed from one document. And so every time I see an article, I always want to go find like, okay, what is the actual source of this? Was it another news article and you're just kind of accumulating exaggerations as one news outlet picks up the exaggeration of another news outlet? And so I would say one of the bigger, I don't want to call it a myth because there's definitely truth in it, but just like water use in AI. And it is a hot topic. I read the actual research report that, all of these news articles picked up, and it all stemmed from one article where someone wanted to just understand if you were to convert electricity use to water use, what would the water use actually be? And like the research report, it all made sense. The author was very transparent about this isn't a real translation. This is me just using representative numbers just to get a better understanding of these things. And then that got picked up by a news article, which then got picked up by a news article, which then got picked up by social media influencers who wanted to, dump out a water bottle and say, this is what happens every time we use AI, which is strictly not true. There was truth to it, definitely, but it did get exaggerated over time. I don't want to discount the fact that AI uses a lot of electricity, and anytime you use the electricity, you generate heat, and you have to shed the heat somehow. And there's definitely a lot of water use from that. But what all of the news articles are missing are like, what is the alternative? And how does this compare to other industries' water use? And so I don't want to just start spouting numbers and risk spouting misinformation. But what I would want everyone to do is, if you're really worried about this, go read the actual report, understand how does this differ from farming or the corn industry, especially given a lot of corn ends up being turned into fuels, and there's a lot of inefficiencies there as well. I again don't want to start spreading things that I've heard from other news outlets, but they all lack perspective and a honest look at alternatives.
Well, I mean, I think part of the hope is obviously in the past. I don't even know when did GPT come out? Was that like 2 years ago now?
GPT-3 is probably one you're thinking about, and I want to say that was 4 years ago now.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. It was that long ago because it's, but I think, and then there was a big boom around Anthropic and Claude, and obviously there's more and more. And now companies are creating their own AI, like you guys and DataX and all these other guys, which is really, really cool. But I think the hope is that as we start to understand the value and the tools, it gets a little bit more focused on what we're using AI for, versus there is a lot of AI use these days to like put my head on somebody else's face in a photo and then, turn me into a horse or something. Mm-hmm. And like you're at a part, like, you know what I mean? Like there's still a lot of use of it, which is a little bit more, not nostalgia is not the word, but just kind of goofy. Yeah, entertainment, just like kind of goofy and for fun, that is maybe like a little less, helpful to mankind. But it's people trying to understand the technology and understand its capabilities, which at some point will probably funnel down to more productive uses of AI using all that energy. And probably the same thing when the internet came out, and we all had access to this world. It was like, oh, now I'm just going to just constantly search for stuff. Right now, I don't just sit there and search random stuff, but there's just, a massive use of it that hopefully becomes a little bit more focused and a little less. But, the AI, my understanding is the AI tools are getting better at that too. They're getting more efficient. Where if this guy really wants his face painted on someone else's, body for the purposes of use, AI is now finding a way to do that in a really efficient way. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that fair to say? It may not be as good, but it's like, let me just give them the simplest result, because all this is using money and power and water and all that stuff. So,
yeah, I would say like the creation of or adoption of AI is very similar to like when people just discovered compressed air, where at first it's like, okay, compressed air is nice. I guess it stores some energy. But once people realized, oh, you can actually pipe that into a tool, and then maybe you can shoot a nail faster if you had something that converts compressed air into shooting nails. And once you found that use case, suddenly people realized, oh, look at all of these other pneumatic tools we can build. And AI, I don't think, has found that perfect use case yet. We are more going from handheld tools to pneumatic tools, and we're just trying to figure out what are the best pneumatic tools here than a world where we went from pneumatic to battery, where it was kind of dropping one technology in favor of a new technology. And if you have a really great pneumatic tool, it's very obvious how you turn that into a very great battery powered tool. But I would say AI is kind of this new technology. Like you said, people started playing with it, and when people are playing with things, they find entertainment use cases. And really, we're just starting to enter an era where people are finding the right use cases for AI in business. Mm-hmm. And as that happens, then the progress is going to speed up as well, because the businesses that are creating tooling using AI are also using AI internally. And as they improve that, it improves the rate at which they can build things. And so it's kind of the first time in history where you have technology starting to accelerate itself.
Yeah, it's kind of wild in a pretty snowball fashion. Yeah, I mean, most of how I've talked about AI in our industry or at our company and how I've been using it. Now I'm looking at different ways where it can help us with efficiency in how we operate, and then consistency, and brain power to check things and things of that nature. But yeah, for the most part, where I've been really excited about it, it's when it's allowed me to do something that I probably otherwise wouldn't have done, because I wouldn't have had the time to put that together. And, a couple examples, and it's not necessarily AI, but technology automation. So when someone schedules a call with me to talk about the potential of us working with them on their project, it kicks into an automation into MailChimp that then sends a series of emails that preps them for the call. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I created that originally, but I hadn't updated in like 6 years. And I'm like, I need to update this thing, but I don't have time to do it. So I have AI analyze and help me make this thing better. Right. Mm-hmm. And tell me what I need to update and what I don't. And now I get it done. Or even doing this show, for example, or putting out the show description. Show description, I usually have something to do with beforehand. But afterwards, after the show, I'm not going to write what we talked about and create show chapters. I'm going to have AI read the whole transcript and put it together for me. And the difference in that to me is it's not that I'm cheating by having AI do it. It's because if AI didn't do it, there's no way I was going to do it. I don't have time to do that. So nobody would even know.
Right? Yeah, that's called Jevons paradox. This idea that as technology makes things more efficient, it lowers the price, and somewhat counterintuitively, that increases the total consumption. You would think that by lowering the price, the consumption goes down, because when the cost goes down, then the total spent goes down. But it actually increases demand so much that the total consumption goes up. And AI is kind of the perfect use case for this Jevons paradox, where the cost of intelligence dropped, and suddenly now people found so many more use cases of, if I just had more time and more intelligence, I would throw it at this thing. And then total consumption goes up because the demand goes up faster than the price goes down.
Yeah. And, it's fixed. There's 24 hours in a day. Yeah. So now if I have the capabilities to fit more stuff within that day, I'm not going to necessarily do less. It's not going to allow me to go golfing all day. It's going to allow me to do more. It may, but right now, at this point in my career, I'm trying to do more.
Yeah.
So that I can do less.
Yeah. And I think that's the most exciting thing I see about AI is, in a world where people start to delegate intelligence, then they get to spend more time and more brain power on what they want. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what you want is spending that time on the business and growing the business. Sometimes what you want is just go to a beach or go play golf. And I see that as exciting, is like, what happens in a world where humans actually get to spend time on what they want to spend time on.
Exactly. Like doing this podcast. I love this, man.
Yeah.
Jordan, we're at time, man. We went a little long as usual, but this has been really cool. We should do it again. I'd love to keep digging in. You've been in the world of AI for over 10 years now. Like, what's your prediction for 5 years from now? Give us some future predictions. Come on. What do you got?
That's the $1 trillion question. And really 5 years is ages in the world of AI. But I don't want to make any predictions here, but I think the thing I'm most excited about is exactly what I said. People are going to get to spend more time doing what they want to do. And I think for a lot of people, it sounds like for you and I, what we want to do is to have more time to focus on the business and grow and help our customers, not users, our customers. But for other people, that means spending more time with the family, spending more time doing what they want to do, spending more time on creativity and hobbies and passions. And so that's something I'm excited about. And maybe I will turn that into a prediction. I predict that people are going to get to spend more time doing things that they want to do rather than things that they have to do just to function in today's society.
I like it. Well, Jordan, thanks again for being here, man. If people want to find you in BizZen, you want to give kind of a quick outro on all that?
Sure. Yeah. The offer I always make is you don't have to buy anything from me. I'm always happy to talk, to answer questions. If you want to adopt AI internally, I can help you figure out where the right place is. Just shoot me an email, Jordan, Jordan, @bizzen.com, bizzen.com. And yeah, I try to respond to every email. I try to take every call that I can. So the offer's out there.
Well, you can now because AI helps make all the other tasks. To that point, it makes all the other stuff easier so that you can spend time interacting with real people.
Right. And that's exactly what the goal of the business is to help people spend more time on what is important. And like you said, that is time with the customers.
I love it. Jordan, thanks again, man. We'll talk soon. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
See you, man.
Bye.